Recent heavy snowfall in northern China has disrupted the normal commute of residents. Remarkably, local officials were seen swiftly assisting in snow removal. The scene, featuring two officials clearing snow with two police cars for escort, was such a touching spectacle that inevitably drew media attention. Reporters eagerly captured the moment, and the officials cooperatively completed the task in just 28 seconds, promptly discarding their brooms and departing. The reluctance in such cold weather to stage this event was apparent. In a stroke of sheer coincidence, this theatrical display was captured by a bystander and found its way onto the internet, igniting a flurry of animated discussions. Netizens, armed with their sharp wit, couldn't help but compare the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, officials to movie stars delivering Oscar-worthy performances. They humorously accused the officials of boldly insulting the public's intelligence in the unforgiving light of day. They commented on the mutual deception between the government and the public in the current political environment. Not only did officials engage in showmanship, but traffic police also joined in. The media reported on heartwarming scenes of traffic police delivering hot water to stranded passengers in cold conditions. The video revealed the lengths taken for a perfect shot, including traffic police handing hot water to drivers, while others created a blizzard effect with snow and their shouts of instructions to keep the snow falling. A platform was even provided to facilitate the shot so that the police officer is elevated enough to hand the water directly to the truck driver. Not only were the traffic police delivering hot water, they were even helping ordinary citizens push their cars.
演员 stand by 道具 ready action
导演能看了吗？
还没看呢，看。
And in this scene, they're actually helping an elderly lady cross the street. But don't get it twisted, this kind of thing usually only happens when there's a reporter filming. Here, this traffic police is carrying a kid across the street. And guess what? Two other officers are filming it. But someone else caught them in the act and said, "Put the kid down already. There's not even any water on the ground."
Look, the traffic cops are fooling people. They're stopping perfectly fine cars to help push them, and there's a reporter tagging along. How staged is that?
Here we see a cop pushing a disabled person across the street. But surprise, surprise, as soon as they crossed, this person stood up and started walking. Once the filming's done, no need to pretend anymore, right? Let's look at this next scene of a CCTV interview during the pandemic. Does your throat still hurt today?
No, it doesn't.
Are you short of breath?
Is it better to be short or long?
You're not short of breath, right?
No, not short of breath.
The slip-up occurred during an obviously directed interview with the elderly man, who was saved by his witty question, "Is it better to be short or long?" and the nurse's smart response, "You're not short of breath, right?" allowing the interview to proceed smoothly. Nevertheless, the broadcast was scrutinized by discerning viewers, highlighting the increasing challenges faced by state media journalists. Look at these prepared interviews with officials, complete with prompt boards and scripted responses. This seemed like a good method to avoid such issues. Netizens offered a tongue-in-cheek commentary on the state of news broadcasts, observing an unspoken pact of pretense between the broadcasters and their audience. Despite the clear awareness of the falsehoods being peddled, both sides play their parts with unwavering earnestness. This charade, they noted, is a telling reflection of the widespread culture of deceit and fabrication that seems to thrive under the governance of the CCP. In China, a nation often described as extraordinary, the leadership of the CCP has often been associated with widespread deceit and deception. A recent example of this was vividly illustrated by an earthquake in Gansu province, which shattered the illusion of China's claims of having eradicated poverty. On the night of December 18th, an earthquake in Jishishan County, Gansu, resulted in the destruction of hundreds of thousands of homes. Images and reports circulating online showed many of these houses were still made of simple mud bricks, indicating that living standards in the area have not progressed beyond those seen in the 1980s, 1990s, and even as far back as the 1950s and 1960s. Contrary to the CCP's narrative, which claims that the Chinese people have long since risen out of poverty, The reality of these mud brick houses paints a different picture. The collapse of these dwellings starkly contradicts President Xi Jinping's assertions of comprehensive poverty alleviation and widespread prosperity, effectively serving as a direct rebuke to the CCP's authority. This contradiction has led to officials in the disaster area reportedly driving away civilian rescue efforts, perhaps in fear of exposing the false narrative of poverty alleviation. Netizens have uncovered reports where the CCP claimed that mud brick houses no longer exist in China. On September 23, 2020, Nihong Deputy Minister of Housing and Urban Rural Development stated in a press conference that all registered poor households were verified to have secured safe housing. Nihong also mentioned that the Ministry of Housing and Urban Rural Development had aided and supported the transformation of dilapidated houses for 10.75 million rural households, including low-income and disabled families, ensuring their move into safer dwellings. This would suggest that according to CCP propaganda, mud and straw houses should have been eradicated from China by 2020. Furthermore, according to CCTV reports, Jishishan County was declared poverty-free as early as 2020 and was even touted as a model county for poverty alleviation. In 2020, CCTV produced a feature titled Gansu Jishishan, Complementing Agriculture and Photovoltaics as a New Route to Poverty Alleviation and Wealth, highlighting the local farmers' reliance on photovoltaic power generation and its advanced method for escaping poverty. The report declared, in 2020, the final year of the national campaign against poverty, Jishishan County was removed from the list of impoverished counties and was celebrated as a model county for poverty alleviation. Additional reports from Chinese media stated that Jishishan County achieved a GDP of 3.35 billion yuan in 2022, with a growth rate of 6.9%. A post on NetEase claimed that Jishishan County's per capita GDP in 2022 was only 14,000 yuan, ranking it as the 9th poorest county in the country. However, as netizens have discovered, about 80% of the county's population of approximately 200,000 people earn less than 700 yuan per month, equivalent to less than $100. A 77-year-old low-income resident told Chinese media reporters, "If it weren't for this earthquake, no one would know how poor we are here." The day after the earthquake, a report by Chinese media, Haibao News, titled Gansu Linxie On-Site Rescue Team, about 70% of self-built mud houses collapsed in villages, highlighted the prevalence of mud brick houses in the area. However, this report has since been deleted. Netizens juxtaposed screenshots of this report with earlier reports claiming the eradication of mud houses among the poor, creating a stark irony. It's no wonder some say that Chinese news reports should not be viewed consecutively, as doing so often reveals inconsistencies. This might explain why many articles are frequently removed from the internet. A young man from Gansu commented that mud brick houses are common throughout the province, with some areas so impoverished that they lack even electricity.
Have you seen these mud houses? People are shocked and can't believe it. But what's so surprising? Have you ever been to the poor parts of China? Do you know what life is like there? Don't let appearances and bragging blind you. This kind of rural housing is everywhere in our Gansu, nothing unusual. And guess what? In some places, even having electricity is a problem. Can you believe that?
A netizen questioned, after years of targeted poverty alleviation, China has supposedly achieved the goal of universal poverty alleviation. Then why do we still see such impoverished rural areas in the disaster zones? This juxtaposition well answers the netizen's query. On the left, we see the reality of poverty-stricken households, while on the right is the CCP's so-called poverty alleviation wall, a facade of neatly aligned houses, often shown in CCTV propaganda. Unfortunately, this flimsy wall couldn't withstand the force of the earthquake. Amidst widespread public skepticism, Chinese media outlet Caixin sent reporters to the earthquake zone. The report highlighted that many buildings, appearing new from the outside, were in a state of disrepair and poverty inside, due to lack of funds for renovation or cost-cutting measures. This discrepancy between external grandeur and internal decay reflects the underlying poverty, with the report stating, "Houses built like this are obviously a result of poverty." In the earthquake news coverage, the CCP repeatedly urged the media to promote positivity and set exemplary stories. Several media outlets reported on a noodle shop owner from Lanzhou who rushed to the disaster area to provide free beef noodles to the victims. According to Shaanxi TV News, the owner could provide 20,000 bowls of noodles per day to the affected people. Cover News reported that the owner, along with 15 people and supplies, arrived in the disaster area at 2 a.m. on December 19th, reaching the village settlement by 7 a.m. with the first bowl of noodles ready by 8:30 a.m. By the evening of the 19th, nearly 30,000 bowls had been served. There is uncertainty about whether 20,000 or 30,000 bowls were actually prepared. However, even 20,000 bowls would be an improbable feat under the conditions of a recent earthquake with water and power shortages. Consequently, some netizens have expressed skepticism about these reports. One commented, calculating the logistics needed for such a feat, including 5 tons of flour and dough, 10 tons of drinking water, 14 skilled noodle chefs, 5 large pots, and at least 5 workers to serve the noodles, along with 2,000 large bowls. All these would be only achievable in 24 hours. If the operation was only during daytime, these resources would need to be doubled. The netizen suggested, next time, please do your research before fabricating such stories. Another netizen remarked, "It's an exaggeration. Providing 20,000 bowls of noodles is implausible. Even 2,000 would be impressive. Preparing beef noodles requires dough making, noodle cooking, and side dishes. It's doubtful whether adequate facilities, water, electricity, and transportation are available in a remote earthquake-affected area. Now the government treats the public like fools, demanding external private relief personnel to leave and just donate money to the government with no certainty about where the funds ultimately go." Another comment read, 7 parts propaganda, 2 parts profiteering, 1 part disaster relief. That's the Chinese Communist Party. The real work is done by the common people. What's the use of this government? In response to the tragic situation in the earthquake zone, CCTV host Kang Hui commented on December 21st, saying that any great difficulty divided by 1.4 billion becomes insignificant. He had previously been criticized by netizens for such remarks. A netizen pointed out, why can't special supplies, high-ranking hospital wards, and Swiss bank accounts be divided by 1.4 billion? If we share the hardships, we should also share the blessings. Indeed, in times of major disasters, the actions of the CCP often awaken a portion of the Chinese population to its true nature. Recently, Chinese media faced a dilemma that left them unable to reconcile conflicting reports. On December 16th, both the National Bureau of Statistics and the National Energy Administration released power data for the first 11 months of the year, showing electricity consumption exceeding electricity generation by 294.6 billion kilowatt-hour. In November alone, the total electricity consumption surpassed electricity generation by 32 billion kilowatt-hour, an amount exceeding the annual consumption of many provinces. People speculated that there could only be 2 reasons for this discrepancy. Either the statistics were incorrect, or the electricity meters, including those for residential and industrial use, were over-recording usage. If the latter were true, the excess 294.6 billion kilowatt-hour of electricity, even at a conservative rate of 0.5 yuan per kilowatt-hour, would mean an overcharge of 147.3 billion yuan. Given the significant amount, an official explanation seemed necessary. However, no department is likely to address the public's concern on this matter. Admitting statistical errors or acknowledging overcharged electricity meters, which would imply exploiting the public, are both unpalatable options. Thus, this issue remains unresolved. It has become somewhat normal for electricity meters to record faster than actual usage. An Edison commented, "My actual consumption is 100 kilowatt hour, but the meter shows 135 kilowatt hour, and I have to pay accordingly. Everyone knows that meters run fast." The electricity in China is monopolized by the State Grid Corporation, leading to corruption in the power industry. Unless a company generates its own power, all electricity sales must go through the state grid. This has resulted in systemic corruption. A sales representative from an electricity meter company revealed that during a bid for a power company's contract, they were asked to make meters run 15% faster to be eligible for the bid. This practice reflects the nature of state-owned enterprises in China, which often prioritize exploiting the public over serving them. Regarding some issues, the media will provide explanations, but only when someone can be blamed. Recently, there were reports that the National Social Security Fund lost 138 billion yuan in 2022, a loss rate of 5.1%. The losses in fair value changes of trading financial assets amounted to 221 billion yuan, indicating over 200 billion yuan loss in stock trading. The Social Security Fund, being a pillar of the Social Security system and affecting the welfare of millions, has consequently attracted public attention. However, some quickly shifted the blame, suggesting that the United States was behind China's Social Security losses and overall economic downturn. Big news! Our Social Security got harvested by the U.S. Last year, we saw over 100 billion investment losses. That's like nearly 100 yuan loss for each of our 1.4 billion people. What happened? Are we going to lose all our pension money? So why the loss? Well, the big bad wolf behind it all is the U.S. Don't be shocked, because in the last 22 years, Social Security only had investment losses twice. Once was in 2008 during the U.S. subprime crisis, which made our stock market plunge from 6,000 to just over 1,600 points. The other time was in 2018 due to the U.S.-China trade war, when the market fell from 3,500 to 2,400 points. See the pattern? Both times, the U.S. was involved. And it's the same story this time. Last year, to harvest money from the rest of the world, the U.S. Federal Reserve went nuts with interest rate hikes, shaking up global capital markets. Our stock fell from 3,700 to around 2,800 points. So naturally, there are all these investment losses in our Social Security funds. Yes, blame it on the United States. Recently, Lin Yifu, dean of the New Structural Economics Institute at Peking University, wrote an article for NetEase Finance, attributing to China's economic slowdown mainly to reduced consumer demand in the United States. From the perspective of new structural economics, he argued that as a developing and transitioning country, China's economic slowdown is largely due to external factors. He noted that economic growth in the United States, according to World Bank and International Monetary Fund forecasts, is only 1.1% this year, which is worse than China's decline. Europe and Japan are facing similar situations, so relative to other countries, China's position is not as bad. The article claims that some believe geopolitical factors have shifted production from China to Vietnam and Cambodia, but this is not the main issue. With reduced American consumption, direct exports from China to the U.S. have also decreased. As the U.S. economy slows, exports from Vietnam and Cambodia to the U.S. have also declined, impacting China's exports to these countries. The article said that it's not just the U.S. Europe is also experiencing this, resulting in China's export growth rate being much lower than the long-term average. Additionally, the article claims that U.S. policies aimed at suppressing China's development are the main reason for these challenges. Lin Yifu, a professor at Peking University and a current CCP-endorsed economist, previously served as a senior vice president and chief economist at the World Bank. He defected to mainland China from Taiwan in 1979 and is still officially labeled by Taiwan as a traitor. Lin is said to have taught China Taiwan's tax-free export processing zone economic development strategies, contributing to China's rise as the world's second-largest economy. He also devised strategies like the Belt and Road Initiative and the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank for Xi Jinping. However, his recent defense of China's economic slowdown, ignoring how the CCP's zero-COVID policy damaged the economy and disregarding China's rule-breaking in the international community, undermines his scholarly integrity. This has led to the perception that in China, experts are no longer neutral, but tools and accomplices in misleading the public under CCP rule.